Okay. Next week, obviously, is Shavuot, so we won't have shiur on Monday night. But right, so Shavuot night. If anyone who wants, thought we could learn, just learn like the daf of like upcoming shiurim together, and then at 12, I'm giving shiur on kind of what we talked about a few weeks ago about it's very late at night about the dots on top of the letters. We'll give you like shiur as part of the general thing, but before that, also to just learn like as a group. So that'll be instead. Shavuot is Sunday night, and then into Monday. Yeah. Okay. Bava Metzia daf Kuf Zayin Amud Aleph. So we finished the series of dapim that were very, agadic intensive about various Amoraim and all sorts of stories about Abraham, and now we're going into just finishing off the Masechta with a couple of shiurim. This week we're going to be talking about. Actually, we just read the Tochacha in the last week's parasha, where the Tochacha also appears at the end of the Torah, right, in Parashat Kitavo. And the beginning of the Tochacha is actually the bracha, right, the good things, and then it talks about the bad things. So we'll see here there are all these brachot that both Rav and Rab Yirmiyah Bar Abba interpret in various ways, and we'll see that Rashi seems to contradict himself and try to offer a suggestion as to what maybe Rashi's trying to get at or allude to. And we'll end off with some Musar Haskel by a comment of the Kli Yakar that I really enjoy. Okay. The Gemara Bava Metzia daf Kuf Zayin Amud Aleph says as follows: Amar le Rabbi Yehuda le Ravin bar Rav Nachman, Avin achi, la tizbon ara desmicha lemata. So Rav Yehuda said to Ravin bar Rav Nachman, my brother Ravin, maybe this is where achi, as a greeting came from. But anyways, don't buy land next to a city. This idea of ayin hara, if you have a field and there are people who are looking at the field all the time, so then that invites jealousy or some spiritual sense, right? What ayin hara means is not for now, but the idea is that you shouldn't have a field next to a city because people will always be looking at the field, and that's bad for the field. So the Gemara asks, Ini v'ha'ash kechinu Rabbi Abba et talmidei de Rav. One time, Rabbi Abba found the students of Rav. Amar lahu, and he said to them, "My Amar Rav Bahane Krai Baruch Atah Be'ir, Baruch Atah B'Sadeh, Baruch Atah B'Vecha, Baruch Atah B'Tzetecha." How did Rav interpret these psukim from the good part of the Tochacha? You'll be blessed in the city, in the field, when you come and when you go. And they said back to him, Hachi Amar Rav. This is how Rav understood them. Baruch Atah Be'ir, Sheheh Beitcha Samuch LeBeit HaKnesset. What does it mean that you should be blessed in the city? Your house should be next to the shul. Baruch Atah B'Sadeh. And this is the point of the contradiction, right? That it's good for your property to be next to the city.
As we say,
say it again.
You give a balabais. If you say the Hirot and mention, that's one of the things you say. Is it should be in
right, very good. Yeah, so it comes from here. Yeah. Baruch atah b'vorecha, and this is what we're going to focus on in our shiur. Shelo tמצא אשתך ספק niddah בשעת ביאתך מן הדרך. That you should be blessed when you come, that if you're on a journey and you come home, you don't find that your wife is a safek niddah. Okay, we'll talk about this. And Baruch atah b'tzeitecha, what about when you leave? Shiut tzeitzei me'echa kemotcha. So it doesn't mean literal leaving, it means the things that leave from you. In other words, your offspring should be like you. Okay? Ve'amar lahu, and they said back to and then Rabbi Abba said back to the students of Rav, Rabbi Yochanan lo amar hachi. Rabbi Yochanan understood this pasuk differently. Ella. Baruch atah ba'ir. What does that mean? Shi'eh bet hakiseh samuch l'shulchancha. Right? No, why?
Either that you should be close to the shul, or that your bathroom should be close.
You can understand.
But why? Right? Why? Yeah.
They didn't have it so close to their home.
They didn't have indoor plants. In other words,
it wasn't inside; it was outside. So instead of running, it is running.
Yeah. Okay. Fair enough.
Get a basic lesson.
Right. I understand. Very good. Yes. But yes, that you should have a place to go to the bathroom near the table.
Can you imagine like on Yad Shtayim, very close to Bet HaKiseh?
It's one of the filters.
Yeah. 3 bedrooms, 2 minutes away from Bet HaKiseh.
Okay, good. I remember once I was with Sab and Safta. We were on a family tiyul. We were in the north. We went to an excavation what was thought to be Rabbi Yehuda Nasi's house in the Safon. And they had this room where the Beit HaKiseh was next to the dining room. And then the tour guide connected it to this idea. Like there's a whole, I don't remember exactly what he spoke about, but this concept that was a sign of wealth and royalty and luxury, that you were able to afford having a bathroom next to the, where you ate. What?
And then it sounds to me like it's not like if you didn't have indoor plumbing. Like
I don't remember.
Having a toilet right next to your house sounds.
No, I don't remember. Not a toilet. I don't remember. Some solution. I don't know exactly what. I don't remember. Anyways, the point here is that this is a machloket on Rav, is cholek on Rav, as Moshe said, aval beit knesset lo, right? It's talking, Baruch atah ba'ir has a different connotation according to Rabbi Yochanan. Rabbi Yochanan atamed, amar schar psiot yesh. Rabbi Yochanan is consistent because he held that there is a reward for the steps taken to shul. In other words, the reason he's not interpreting it that you should be near the shul is because he thinks if you walk to shul, there's reward in that. And so he's not going to say
showing that you want to go like mincha.
Right, you want to go
stop your day and go and pray.
Right, so if you live right next to the shul, so it's not such a big deal. But if you live far away, then you get a schar for that extra, tircha
so
that
he
you
would
do.
say it's not okay to pray on the train, for example.
So it's not okay. It's just you don't get as much schar. If you're anywhere in the carriage and you start davening, like say that, like at a baseball game, you do it forced into a mincha, whatever. But like if you go out your way to go to shul, you get some more schar for that.
He would say, don't start a breakaway minyan just because you live a 15-minute walk. That's what he would say. No, I'm joking. I don't know. No. We live half a block from shul, and I find that very convenient. So I'm with Rav on this. A block. What? Okay. Say it. Anyways, continuing on. Baruch atah basadeh shiyu nechasecha meshulashin. Okay, so what does it mean you should be blessed in the field? It means that you should be a good investor. What does that mean? Shlish b'tvuah, shlish b'zeitim, shlish b'gfanim. You should diversify your portfolio, right? If you have only one sort of produce, then if something goes wrong, you're sunk. You need to make sure that you're your risk is well distributed. Okay? Baruch atah b'voecha, u'baruch atah b'tzeitecha, sheyetziatcha min ha'olam, keviatcha la'olam. And Rabbi Yochanan finishes and he says, what does it mean you should be blessed in coming, blessed in going? It means when you die, you should be as free from sin as when you came into the world. Okay, okay. So all of that was to create to bring the contradiction of, didn't Rav Yehuda say to Rav and Bar of Nachman, you shouldn't have your field next to the city, but one of the parts of the pasuk that Rav interpreted said you should have your field next to the city. So how do I understand that contradiction? The Gemara concludes. He's actually an old Vayanara. You're close, actually. I mean, he says so he says when Rav said that you are blessed if you have a field next to the city, that's if you have a wall and a fence surrounding it so no one can see it. And when it says you'll be cursed if you have a next to the city, that's if there's people can look into it. So he's kind of differentiating the cases, and that resolves the contradiction. We'll talk about Anhar a little bit more at the end. But yeah. Okay, so like I said, we're going to focus specifically on the statement of Rav, that what does it mean? Baruch atah b'voecha, when you come, you should be blessed. Shelo tמצא אשתך ספק niddah בשעת ביאתך מן הדרך. So if we look, this teaching appears in Sanhedrin Kuf Gimel Amud Aleph, but from a different source. It says as follows: V'amar Chisda Amar Rabbi Yirmiyah bar Abba, Mai dichtiv lo teuneh elecha ra'a v'nega lo yikrav bo alecha. This is a pasuk from Tehillim, right? It says that you should not have any evil happen to you, and a plague should not come close to your tent. So what does that mean? Lo teuneh elecha ra'a shelo yishlot b'en yetzer hara. Right, you shouldn't have any evil happen to you. That the Yetzer Hara should not have any power over you. V'nega lo yikrav bo alecha, and you shouldn't have a plague near your tent. Shelo tמצא אשתך ספק niddah בשעת שתבוא מן הדרך. Okay, because here tent is taken to mean your wife, and a plague is being interpreted to mean that you find her as a ספק niddah when you come back from a journey.
We're using the saying here שתבוא, over there they said ביאתך. It's not exactly the same.
What's the difference?
ביאתך is more like ביאה.
But it's similar, no?
Is there?
Also, why is it saying sfek? That's the most.
Okay, so that we're going to get to, right? Very good. Yeah.
Also, tavon biah.
Good. So that's the obvious question we need to ask, right? We'll ask that in a minute. Yep.
No, ביאה זה פשוט זה יחסי שות.
No, but here, ביאתך מן הדרך, it means you're coming home, not the act of
אבל עדיין, זה יש...
מסתדר, לשון נופל על לשון.
Yeah, I think here means ביאתך מן הדרך. It doesn't mean beyond the act of beyond. It's coming from the root, yes. And in terms of the sfek niddah, we're about to talk about it. Good. Okay, just to finish the Gemara Sanhedrin, דבר אחר, לא תאונה אליך רעה, שלא יבעטוך חלומות רעים והרהורים רעים. Right, another way to interpret this pasuk, right? Evil should not, chance upon you. It means that you shouldn't be, frightened by bad dreams or bad thoughts. V'negel lo yikrav ba'olech. What does it mean a plague should not be in your tent? Not that you shouldn't find your wife a sfek niddah when you come back from a journey, but rather shelo yeheb lecha ben o talmid shemakdiach tavshilo berabim kegon Yeshu anotzri. It means that you shouldn't have a student who overcooks his stew in public like Yeshu anotzri.
Is that an expression?
Jesus?
Yeah.
Is that an expression?
Christian.
It's the word. I had to ask him in a
Sorry, it was three comments. I love it. Take turns, yeah. What? To overcook your pot?
Yeah, is that a expression?
I guess so. I mean, it says it here, right?
But no, what does it mean though?
like burn your food.
Oh, what does it mean to overcook? That means that, what Yeshu did is he went and he, preached in public things that he wasn't supposed to preach. In other words, he oversold.
You may have had an idea, but then you went too far with it.
You went too far
It's
with
like
it.
to give away everybody the special recipe or something. Kind of.
Yeah,
אתה מעצבן כזה.
yeah, like the children on Shabbos.
זה מצטמק ויפה, לא?
בטוב,
You had a top showing, you burnt it.
Yeah. Right, and then in public, right? Yeah. I didn't bring the thing with the issue. There's a whole thing with the issue after this, but it's not for now. It's worth learning kind of on its own. But what we can learn Shavuos next month. Yeah, it's a fascinating Gemara, to be honest. But anyways, the point is here we have another source of the idea that you shouldn't find your... Okay, so the first question we need to ask, which is Kobe's question, is why sfek niddah? No, surely if I come from a journey and I find my wife is a vadai niddah, that's also not a good thing, right?
Right, you're assuming that החשש shit. Like, what's the big deal?
I think I know.
What do you mean?
You're saying למה ספק? רגע, ואם באת בדרך והיא לא ספק נדע, זה בסדר, לא? Like,
No,
It's
the
saying-
question why is sfek
so
niddah
bad
not
about
niddah?
it. I get it, but like, what's the Gemara saying that's bad about it?
I think if I'm thinking about it, like if you come back from Miluim and your wife is niddah, so okay, I can't be with her, but it's only safek, so it's like a place of like, it's like, I can come in.
Wow,
אין ספק.
you בדיוק מתכוון, very good. That's what Rashi says.
אמיתי, זה לא ביג דיל, אני יודע מה לעשות. בסדר.
Good. Okay, good. You were biduk what you said is what Rashi said. Okay, so Rashi
He says
contradicts.
Miluim.
You're saying Rashi held you should go to tzavah. Okay, fine. That's another. What?
בישיבה.
Okay. Anyways, so Rashi, since this concept comes up in both Bava Metzia and Sanhedrin, so his comments in Bava Metzia, he says sfek niddah, and then his commentary there is kol sheken vadai. Okay, so Rashi in Bava Metzia, he says sfek niddah. It means, and for sure, if she was a vadai niddah.
זאת אומרת, זה פריאה ורבייה, like, זה לא מתאים.
What? Sorry.
So Rashi in Bava Metzia is saying it's about פריאה ורבייה.
It's saying, what does it mean to be a blessing? Like, what is Baruch Atah Bevoecha? That if she, so why would I teach Svek Niddah and then not Vadai Niddah if it's Kol Sheken? Like, why say Svek Niddah then? If Rashi's right that it means Kol Sheken Vadai, so then why not just say
Not even
that your wife should be? Right, not even, in other words, if I just taught, right, that your wife is not a Niddah when you come from the Derech, so you might think if she's a Safek Niddah, that's considered
okay.
that's okay. But to teach otherwise, you teach Sfek Niddah, and then I know the Vada Niddah from the Kal V'chomer. Okay, that's why it says Safek Niddah. That's Rashi's explanation in Bava Metzia. But his explanation in Sanhedrin is exactly what Kobe said, right? If we look at Rashi in Sanhedrin, V'ainu bo alecha b'ishtecha, right? Tent means wife. Kedamrinan eno alo elisha. Ubishah she'adam ba mina miluim, mina derech, קשה לו כשימצא את אשתו ספק נידה, יותר מנידה ודאית. Right? Why? שהספק הוא מייצר, ויצרו תוקפו. Right? He says, maybe not, Ve'omer te'orai v'al chinam ani monea. It's not, maybe it's all for nothing. If she's vadai, then there's no question. He overcomes his yet, so there's no question. But so according to the Rashi in Sanhedrin, when it says safek niddah, it's davka safek niddah. It's not safek to teach me kol sheken vadai, rather safek and not vadai. Okay, so that Rashi has those two interpretations, and the Maharsha notes that they're in tension with each other. Right? Maharsha says ayin pi Rashi hacha in Bava Metzia, where he says kol sheken vadai, aval bechelek, which is in Sanhedrin pi Rashi באופן אחר, something אחר. עניין אחר, אוקיי? וזה לשונו, דקשה לו כשימצא אשתו ספק נידdah יותר מוודאי, שעל הספק הוא מייצר איתו תוקפו, ואומר תראה לי וכן אני מונע, עד כאן לשונו. וקרוב על זה במרשם. Okay, so Maharsha notes that Rashi seems to give two different explanations for why ספק נידdah דווקא. Okay? So, before going on, they don't have any ideas why, what this could be. I had a thought, but...
What safek niddah is?
No, why Rashi interprets one way in Bava Metzia and one way in Sanhedrin.
Maybe the context in one Masechet is to read, I don't know. Right?
Right. Okay, so...
For this, and it's more relevant.
So we did read them, right? And I'm inclined to agree with you. What's the difference between the teachings?
Well, Sanhedrin is talking about Shalai Yishlait Behem Yetzer Hara. So it's in context with that.
Okay.
So it's talking about safek niddah, where that would be a situation where it would be very hard to be sholet on your Yetzer Hara.
Good.
So Bava Metzia, they're talking
The other
more
one is
about...
like just bracha.
Yeah.
Right.
No, but Bava Metzia, they're talking also about חינוך,
And
like...
of course...
שנכסי החיים קרובים לעיר, ואחרי זה אומרים שצאצאי מאיך היו כמותך. So
Not
it's more
עניין של
about...
חטא, עניין של like good, like
Right.
good life.
Exactly. In other words,
Happy life.
Bava Metzia, it's a positive... There's a positive context, right? You will be blessed if you don't find your wife in this place. If you find her Torah, you'll find her so. Like, of course, right? I mean, so in other words, I'm going to say like safek niddah. If you don't find her, then you have a bracha. And then of course you have a bracha if you don't find her as a vadai niddah. It's framed in a positive way. So Rashi interprets it that way. Versus in Sanhedrin, like David Moshe said, right, what is the first half of the pasuk? Shelo yishlot b'an yetzer hara, v'nega lo yikav ba'olecha. It's negativity, right? It's saying you shouldn't be cursed. Now you should be blessed. So if it's I shouldn't be cursed, I'm going to interpret the reason behind it. Rashi, in other words, there's no difference between the concepts. It's still, if she's pure, if she's Torah, you have a blessing for sure. And if she's, safek niddah, then you have a curse for sure. But it might kind of shed a different way of thinking about what does it mean if she's a vadai niddah. Because if she's a vadai niddah, do I see that as like kol shekain? Do I see that as it's not necessarily a curse, or do I see it that it's right? It's not. So I think maybe that might be what Rashi's trying to pick up on is you're deriving it from different psukim in different contexts, so he gives different reasons, even though the teaching's the same. And the Maharsha actually makes a point that's quite obvious, which I think ties nicely into that. And the Maharsha in his comments in Sanhedrin, he says the following. So he is commenting now on Rashi's Kobe approach, which is that it's safek niddah specifically and not vadai niddah. So right, Rashi said why safek niddah specifically? Because vadai niddah he doesn't have the same temptation because there's nothing to talk about, right? So the Maharsha says it's safek niddah dafka, not vadai niddah, but for a different reason. Why? Ki kmo shetum'at hanega babayit hu moreh al chet hadavuk badarim bo. Because it's talking about nega lo yikav ba'olecha. There shouldn't be a plague on your house. So just like when there's a plague on a house, like tzarat, that right, all of Chazal all over the place talk about how that means the people living in the house, the nega is meant to be some kind of sign that they did something wrong. Kedamrinam be'erechin ken tumat haniddah beva'o min haderech leveito yoreh al chet ha'ish. Why are we talking about that this is a curse or this is a blessing? It's because it's showing something about the individual, right? If you come home from a journey and you can't be with your wife, the reason why that's a blessing or a curse is because it's a sign spiritually of something. Either that you're pure and therefore your wife is pure when you come home, or that you're not. And so he says, Ve'amar safek niddah. So why say specifically safek niddah? Ki havadai niddah hu bizman aveset ve'en ze moreh al chet ha'ish. No, it's because if you're talking about a woman who's certainly a niddah, so every woman has a period once a month. So does that mean that a person who's a total tzaddik and he goes on a business journey and he comes back and it's that time of the month for his wife that says something negative about him? No, she has her her cycle, and that's it.
How it works. There's Zman Beset and there's Zman Niddah and Zman Ziva.
Okay.
Especially in their time.
Meaning
that there's no such thing as niddah except Zman Beset.
That's what they're saying.
So what's suffix?
what's Safek Niddah, you're asking?
There's no time that she could be in niddah that's not in her Zman Beset, in her time of the month.
So I think the Yun Yaakov is going to explain that in a second, I think, if I understood him correctly. Because you're asking what is Safek Niddah if it's not a regular Niddah. So we'll learn the Yun Yaakov in a minute. What do you say? All right. אבל הספק נידע בא שלא בזמן וסת, דרך מקרה. So I think what Marsha is saying is that it could be that she spots or sees blood even if it's not that time of the month. Okay, let's not do that, okay, Hamid? שעל זה מורה...
You're saying לא היה דבר כזה.
כי יש את זה פשוט 7 ימים.
אמיתי או לא אמיתי? It was vested or not vested?
Also, it's not so true, because you read it.
אבל זה זיווה, אם זה לא בזמן וסת.
לא, אבל אתה שוכח, אתה זוכר מה התמיד מלמדים בהדרכת כלות וחתנים, אני לא זוכר אם זה כתוב במשנה בגמרא, שהיו רואות, בנות ישראל החמירו לעצמן, היו טיפה להם כחרדל.
נכון, היום מתייחסים
זה ספק נידה.
אבל בתקופה של הגמרא, רש"י, אז כן התייחסו
אבל אנחנו
לזבה ונידה כמשהו שונים.
אנחנו מדברים פה על התקופה שעכשיו מפרש את זה מהזווית שלו.
אוקיי, סבבה, אבל מה שהוא אומר זה שהוא מפרש את הגמרא. Maybe the Yun Yaakov, I think it'll probably just confuse us more, but we can...
I think the might be just she was bleeding and she doesn't know exactly what it is yet.
Right, there are certainly cases of a safek, generally, right? Or you just think, she sees it and she doesn't know if the color is the right color, and even if it's in the right time, it might not say, I don't know, there are all these shadows. So it's a good point, Yonah. I don't quite know the answer. We'll look at the Yun Yaakov in a second, but the broader point the Marsha is making, kind of regardless of that, is since niddah vada is something that happens regularly, it can't be a sign of spiritual blessing or curse, which is why it specifies safek niddah, because that is something that could, in some sense, be indicative of something being wrong or not. So that's the Marsha's argument, which is interesting because the other way to understand all of this, obviously, is not a spiritual... the Marsha's premise is, this is all talking in the realm of why is it a blessing or why is it a curse in the spiritual sense, because it shows that you did something right or wrong. But the other way to understand it is just in a very practical, technical sense.
You came back after the 2 weeks being in the States, you just want to be...
You want to be with your wife, and if you can't, that's a curse in the sense that you can't do what you want to do.
It's like,
right. It's a curse not in any like divine sense, but just you're unable to fulfill a desire that you have.
That's not the Marsha. That's you.
That's not the Marsha. I'm saying it's I'm saying it's right. The Marsha is
also what you explained. כן, אני מסכים. ההקשר is Bava Metzia is ממש. Have a good life. נכסיך קרובים לעיר. חטאים?
Right. Exactly. It's very practical. It's very practical. Right. Very good.
That's nice.
Oh, but I didn't even think of this. But in Sanhedrin, it does seem to be more.
It's about
Yetzirah. You're saying that the difference between. Very good. I hadn't thought of that. You're saying Sanhedrin is talking in the context of a spiritual malady.
You live a good life, like tash gavoa. I'm going down to...
No, very good. Yeah.
Yeah, if you have a train station near your home, then it's a tash gavoa.
כן, באתי להגיד, היום נכסיך קרובים לרכבת מאשר לעיר.
כן, בתור אחד שנוסע שעה ו10 דקות, אני יודע.
Okay, very good. I hadn't thought of that.
I thought you were trying to say no.
No, what I was saying is that not Bava Metzia versus Sanhedrin, but just the idea of why Safek Niddah, you could see it as the Marsha Safek Niddah being a spiritual indicator of curse or blessing, or just a practical indicator. But you're saying no, it could be that maybe the difference between the sugyot is about what I understand it is. That's very good.
Two completely different teachings.
Yeah, it's the same technical phrasing, but it's coming to teach me two totally different
כן,
things.
that's why רש"י כן.
And that, yeah, very
משפיע
good.
על אשתו נידה, לא ספק.
Right, yeah. Okay, Diyun Yaakov, and Yoni, you'll help us out here. So in the first line, שלא תמצא אשתך ספק נידdah בשעת ביאתך מן הדרך. עין פירוש רש"י והמרשה, ועוד יש לומר על דעת דאיתא ביורה דעה, סימן קפ"ד וקפ"ה. No, it's a good size this week.
Woe is us that this is called a good sign.
Come on, it's really that good. דאישה תהיה שלה וסת, אם שעתה...
אחר וסתה.
I spoke too soon.
Oh, impale the
אם
voice.
שעתה אחר וסתה, שיעור
This one, yeah, שלא
שתספור ותטבול, באה עליה, ואין צריך לשאול. Right? So if there's a woman that it's her time of the month, right? יש לה וסת, right? If she waits after her period, the number of days that's required, and she goes to the mikvah, so then she doesn't have to ask any shilas, right? She doesn't have to go to a rav and clarify what her status
He
is.
doesn't need to ask.
What?
I think he doesn't need to ask her.
He doesn't need to ask her. Exactly. Thank you.
Why? You can see if she's like
He can't
He
today too,
could
I don't
assume she's tehillah.
when.
know. At the 7th
Let's say he went to on a business trip to the States for 2 weeks, exactly when
And he knew she was there beforehand.
Yeah.
He comes back. He
When
knows
someone
it's
has,
not.
when a woman has a
post her
vesset,
vesset.
it means that every month she gets it on the whatever 20th and 20th.
I'm pretty
day.
sure he knows.
Yeah, okay. vesset
Did the
hilchati.
chusn lessons.
Of course,
Right.
he didn't just ask her.
So the husband doesn't.
To the wife.
Right. The husband doesn't have to ask the wife. Okay. Right.
Just come home and know.
ומבואר שם, דאם ודאי ראתה, אסור עד שישלם. ועין שם בתז, סימן קפ"ד, סעיף קטן ט"ז, סעיף קטן תז.
But he goes back,
ואם כן,
צריך לשאול מבואר שם, אם ודאי ראתה, אסור עד שישאל. At what point exactly he knows she saw for sure?
כנראה לא בזמן הווסת.
I'm saying if he just goes on a trip, comes back after like a week, I don't know, so he needs to ask, even though it's not the time of the month.
It's weird because באמת in those days they used to go for a long time. מן הדרך, it could be like a month.
let's continue. Okay, right after, in the middle of the wide line, the first wide line, which says, ואם כן, בבא מן הדרך, someone who comes back from a journey, ואשתו היה ספק נידdah, right? אם שעתה כשיעור שתספור ותטבול, so if, right, she had waited the amount of time for her to have counted and then to go to the mikvah, בא עליה בלי שאלה, right? Doesn't have to ask, what the story is, right? אם אחר כך נודע לו שלא טבלה, but then if he finds out afterwards that she actually did not go to the mikvah and that she was forbidden to him, right? וראתה נמצא בעל הנiddah בשוגג. So this is an example of someone who's with a niddah by accident.
Struggling for him. But
For
she
him.
deceives him,
Correct. מה שאין כן כשהיא ודאי נידdah, but if she's certainly a niddah, אז אינו בא כלל לאיסור כיוון שצריך שישלנה. Right? In other words, like if it's in the parsha of he shouldn't have to ask her because it's just the normal way of things, and then for whatever reason she didn't tell him and she actually didn't purify herself, then there's a risk involved in that. But if she was definitely a niddah because it wasn't at the normal time, so then there's no risk involved. That's why safek niddah is worse in a way than a vadai niddah. That's how the Yaakov tries to explain it. But again, I think there's nuances here to the halachot and how it used to be. I want to just conclude with a Gemara in Yoma, which is kind of humorous, and the Kli Yakar for some Musar Haskell.
כי עד עכשיו לא היה.
Very serious.
Yeah, well, just wait, okay? Amar Rav Gidel Amar Rav. The end of that, the first line actually. Rav ki mikla ledarshish. So Rav, when he used to visit the city Darshish, Machris used to announce, Man havya leyoma. Who wants to marry me for the day? Rav Nachman kad mikla lish. Sorry?
Okay.
Do you have a question on that?
I was saying, ooh-ah.
U'ah.
ooh-ah.
Okay, Rav Nachman kad mikla l'shach netziv, Machris. And then when Rav Nachman went to a different city, Shach netziv, Machris, Man havi al who wants to marry me for the day? V'atanya, but haven't we learned? Amar Rabbi Eliezer ben Yaakov Omer, lo yisa adam isha b'medina zo, v'elech v'yisa isha b'medina acheret, shema yizdavgu ze etzel ze v'nimtza ach noseh achoto, u'memalek kol olam kulo mamzerut. V'al ze ne'emar u'mal'a aretz zima. I live in city 1. Okay, I'm married to my wife. I go to another city. I marry some other random woman in that city, and it turns out the two of them are sisters. Right? Isn't that a problem?
I think he's saying that if you just bring offspring from random women, so then eventually, like a brother
will be brothers, yeah.
and sister will
and
like,
in different cities,
two
Because then you have a
different
kid in
wives.
one city, let's say in Kiryat Gat, and
Because you
another
could
one
marry
in
your
Kiryat
sister.
Malach.
Yeah, Shema is
You're right. You're right.
Cool.
Thank you. You are correct. Thank you. You're right. Correct. So
Same problem.
anyway, right. The problem is that aren't you concerned about what could happen from doing that? So how could Rav just go visit Darshish and every time he'd say, "Oh, who wants to marry me for the day?" Right? Because Rav had a wife in his hometown. So Amr, they used to say, "Rabbanan kala itu." No, the rabbis they had people knew who they were. It wasn't going to be this thing. Oh, we don't know who he is. That he goes to another city. They had a name for themselves. So you don't have to be worried that suddenly we're not going to know who the parents are.
Mother will tell her kids.
Right, your father is Rav. Your father's Rav Nachman. It's not going to happen, right?
I also
came from
understand
there.
Kala is like mitparsem.
Mitparsem.
Like if it's in the same city, there's no issue because everyone knows. Oh,
That's true even of a normal person. It means when I go travel somewhere.
so even when it's travel, it's crazy.
Because the Rabbanan
Everyone
never...
knows that they marry.
Just know
Right.
you can tell that.
Okay. So... Okay, so then it's going into a bit more detail, but let's just basically So the question is, why is Rav doing this? In other words, why, or Rav Nachman, why are they going to a city and saying, right, man havla yoma? So the answer is, without getting into the details here, this last line, lefi she'eno domeh mi sheyesh lo pat besalo lemi she'en lo pat besalo. What does that mean?
I think- So he will get home, and it doesn't matter what's going to happen. He's not going to be in a sfek niddah situation. You won't have the yitzhara.
Because he's already had it in another city, that's the thing.
Because he already ate enough.
In
Basically,
the
that's what they're
respect
saying.
of that city, he knows he has a wife, so he doesn't have to worry that he
Right.
may...
It's not that Rav is actually going and marrying a woman and being intimate with her. It's that he knows theoretically he could. Right? He says, who wants to marry me for the day? He wants to marry me for the day. A woman comes and marries him for the day. He's not then going and sleeping with her. Right? But the fact that he's married to someone intellectually is a way to keep the Yetzer Hara at bay. Because he knows that he has an option.
I mean, it opens up a whole question of, like, if you're allowed to marry someone stumped for the whatever, you're not actually doing anything.
That's
Like,
why Chazal say, I don't remember the exact words, but you can't get married, for that issue.
Say what?
Like,
echt een
עקרונית,
It's like-
כן. Yeah, עקרונית, you could לקדש, or...
על מנת לגרש באותו.
אפילו בלי, כאילו, נותן כתובה, ואז זהו, פר יום.
It makes sense. That's exactly what they're saying in the end. Like he already knows. מי שיש לו פת בסלו, הוא לא דומה למי שאין לו פת בסלו. Because he already knows how to have a pot, how it feels like. So it won't be as...
Right. You know, Rav has his actual, his real wife back in whatever the first city is, right? So he has this pat besalo for his first, but you assume that he's far away and he's gone for a long time. So there's, I think the way I understand it to mean is this is a psychological game that he's playing to subdue himself by saying, I have a wife. What poor woman? She gets to be married to the Gadol Ador. What poor woman?
for nothing. Just for,
What's the Gemara
she's
asking?
a
It's such a schutz. What?
What is the Gemara asking though? What's the question that they're answering?
Shimon, we're talking about...
Oh, in the back and
We're
forth?
talking
It's
about 20 years ago.
technical.
We're talking about like...
So what is it?
The whole thing here was before,
I
it's
don't know, we
like,
should-
he never
You think
asked,
it's law,
like,
it's not...
the wife never could say that she's Tamir Tabor. If he remembered to ask her, it's just like,
That's by the way in general. Also
but
nowadays, your
just
wife
the
will
way
never
now
tell you
they
she's
know.
Tmeah. She will say, I might be. המדריך חתנים שלי, he said,
She has to wait 7 days.
she shouldn't say Tmeah, she should say something else. Because if she says Tmeah, then it's a big problem to get her to...
Because the question Rav is asking is that if he wants to marry her and she agrees, they have to wait 7 days. You can't marry someone and...
She was designated for him.
Right.
And then what's the fee?
It's saying, the question is, how could you say that he went and said he wants to marry me today? Because even, you have to wait 7 days. So it says, either he sent this in advance, right? He sent like a notice in advance, he wants to marry me when I get to the city. Right? And or you can say, or that this was something that they, it was...
She was designated for when he arrived, right?
Yeah, and that it was not meant to be. It was in Nisuin in the conceptual sense, but not that they were ever going to actually be together. So it's not a problem of.
It's not about his wife. It's about the woman in the new town.
Right. The reason that answers the question of Tvoli Nasev Nid Paisat Tzricha Leshev Shivan Nikim is that because he's not going to be with her, so you don't have to worry. Oh, what if she's a niddah? Because he's not actually practically going to encounter that.
The woman that he wants to marry for the day, she's the Pat Besalo.
Yeah.
So that he will not be in the new place, Ravak.
Exactly.
And he can't deball her.
Also, by the way,
but
Okay.
It's my wife.
This random woman that was
it doesn't matter. It's your wife.
Also, everything is Rav Nachman. The same Rav Nachman who says everything here. Who did it? So,
okay.
And it makes sense that he did it. Because he was, Aviezer said he wanted to live like a good life.
Rav is the one who says, "Shelo Tמצא אשתך ספק niddah."
לא, לפי פה, אם אתה מנה, ברוך אתה ואמרו לו, שם שאר הדברים, לא? לא אמר את זה?
Rav is the one who, right, it starts with Rav Nachman, but Rav is the one who says, Baruch atah b'vorecha shel tמצא אשתך ספק niddah בשעה ביאתך מן הדרך. And Rav is the one who played this trick. When he went to Darshish, he would say, whoever wants to marry me for the day. Okay. So I want to finish on the Kliyakar, which is not really on this topic, but it's back on the original Gemara. It's an unrelated just point that I think is a really powerful idea. Right? Among the other things that we learned was this concept of, should you have a field next to a city, yes or no? And in the end we said, one rabbi says, one rabbi contradicts, but it's because you do or don't have a wall surrounding it. That's how the Gemara resolves it. So the Kliyakar in his commentary in the beginning of Sefer Dvarim, at one point, Moshe says, Hashem said to me, Rav lechem sovet tahar hazeh, pnu lachem tzafona. Right? Stop walking around, go north. When Moshe is retelling the journeys that Bnei Yisrael went on. So what does it mean to go north? So the Kliyakar interprets this midrashically. He says, V'inyan ha'atzpana zo, she'im yimtza ha'isha Yisraeli begalut, achal hazeh, ezo atzlacha ze'er sham, אז יטמינו ויצפינו הכל בפני עשיו. כי אין לך אומה שמתקנאת בישראל כמו עשיו. So what does it mean, פנו לכם צפונה? צפונה, not from go north, but from like צפון, to hide yourself. Okay, so when it says פנו לכם צפונה, you should hide. It means, the context there in Devarim is that you should stop going. They were in Seir. They were told to Pnu lechem tzafona in the context of being around Seir. Seir is a sav. Sav is a dome, and it represents the goyim. So why Pnu lechem tzafona when I'm in the land of the goyim? Because there's no nation that is jealous of the Jews like Esav. Ve'al korchach tziva dafka al Esav pnu lechem tzafona shelo yitkaneh bahem, that they shouldn't be jealous of them. V'zeh hefech mima sheYisrael osim bedorot halalu be'artzot oivehem. This is the opposite of what the Jews actually do in Galut. Why? What do the Jews do? Ki mi sheyesh lo maneh, whoever has a certain amount of wealth, hu mar'eh et atzmo b'malbushei kavod ubatim sfunim v'chashuvim ki'ilu hayu lo kama alafim. So people, they present themselves as though they have a lot of wealth. They buy big houses and they put on fancy clothes and they get nice cars. Umegarim ha'umot be'atzmam. And they cause the nations to look badly upon them through their behavior. Ve'ovrim al nash ne'emar pnu lachem tzafona. And they're violating this edict of you should essentially humble yourselves in the face of the goyim so that you don't incur their wrath. Uminhag zeh hu berabat b'nei amenu. Right, the Kliyakar lived 1700s in Europe. And he said this is a rampant problem. And this is the cause for all of the problems that we have, all the pogroms and all of the hatred that we get from the goyim, are because we don't know how to be tzfunim. And those who understand should really. So the reason I brought this here is because we talked about the ayin hara when it comes to putting your field next to a neighbor's house. If you have a wall, but the people who don't have a wall, why is it Baruch atah ba'ir? You're allowed to have your field, and you're allowed to have a nice field, but put a wall around it so people can't look at it. Because the people who don't put a wall around it why don't they put a wall? Because they want people to see, and that's the whole idea of ayin hara. They want people to see. Look at how awesome my field is. It's right next to the city, so you can see it because everybody looks by it, and that is not the right way to act. Rather, we should be p'nei l'chem tzafona.